Welcome back to the channel, and in today's video we're doing another recap of Love Island USA Season 2 episode number 30. But before we jump into this video, I wanted to let you guys know that I see you commenting, and I want to thank all of my new subscribers, all of everyone that's engaged in the channel. I am still doing shout outs at the end of the show. But for those that are enjoying the commentary and continue to come back, if you haven't subscribed, smash that like button and also subscribe as well so you can continue to get great content. So let's jump into this video. So we're going to start off first with our newest couple, which is Bennett and Laken. Laken was telling Bennett how excited she was that she was chosen by him. And he was like, no, it's a good connection that we have. I've had this connection with you since you walked in. You seem real. We're on the same level and it's not forced. And she even said that he was at the top of his list, and that, that she was messing up by, trying to engage with Carrington. And, Bennett was like, no, you weren't being messy. You was just exploring your avenues. And then they got to talking about, how her family, or she was saying how her family would be happy to know that, she chose such a good guy and he would be glad to. And I'm like, okay, but you were all in before yesterday's recoupling to try to get with Carrington. So now you're all pro Bennett? Okay. Yeah. But anywho, she had a conversation in the beauty room with Laurel regarding Carrington, and she was saying, hey, I feel bad for you. He made you feel bad while he was sitting up here trying to engage with me. And, I actually thought he was going to pick me, but he picked you instead, but I'm glad that he did it. And, it was just interesting. And then when they finally got a chance to sit down and meet and have a conversation, Laken pretty much handed him his face. She really laid into him saying, you played me for a fool. You one of the best actors I've ever seen, because you made me think, beforehand that you were going to choose me, but you ended up staying with Laurel. I don't understand that. And he's like, oh, I'm into you. I'm into you. And she was like, stop. You're annoying. Just stop. And I'm glad that she actually, put her foot down with him, and she said, you made Laurel feel bad about herself by your behavior when we were actually trying to engage with each other. And you did all this in front of her. And she was feeling like something was wrong with her. So I'm glad she kind of told him about himself, because he's playing games. And then we'll touch on him more a little bit later. So back to Bennett. There was this whole thing that they had with the fire and ice challenge. And Bennett actually got best boyfriend? No, least least boyfriend or something like that. And then, of course, she got a lot of categories because the USA had to vote for the fakest, best boyfriend, the most loyal, things like that. And Lakelyn, she got worst girlfriend, she got least loyal, and she didn't get the whole two-faced thing, but she was like, I don't understand why they're even judging me on this because I just got here. So, it was pretty crazy. So she did have another conversation with Laurel, and they were basking in the glow of the sunlight. They were acting like BFFs, whereas 24 hours ago, they were on two opposite ends of the spectrum. It's just crazy. So I don't know how legit that friendship is. She definitely tried to stand up for Laurel, but at the end, it seems like she says Bennett is a good guy, and she's looking forward to, continue to get to know him. All right, let's move on to this couple, Johnny and Cely. And they were just in chill mode. He asked her, well, how you feeling? And she was like, oh my God, I'm really grateful that you chose me again and that we decided to become boyfriend and girlfriend. This doesn't happen to people like me. And, she started talking about, he started talking about their family situation. And, she was saying it was hard growing up. Her mom had to she dealt with cancer twice, and that she had been working since she was 16, and she had to carry all the weight for the family. So, yeah, and kudos on being a survivor. I don't know what type of cancer she didn't mention, but congrats to her mom for beating cancer twice. But Johnny was like, I'm attracted to you, and I love how you love your family, and I've never met anybody like you, and I don't. Here's the thing. I get what we've seen with the whole fiasco with him and Mercedes. I don't know if this is this deep, this fast. It could be possible. Hey, they only know what's real and what's true. But I'm just not sure about these two because I see some interesting things. I'm more of a Cely fan now than I am a Johnny fan. Some of the things that he was saying kind of give me controlling vibes about when they get back and what she's supposed to do and what she needs to do, and this is how we can do this. And it's like, how about you guys figure that out together? But, hey, they're vibing right now. It'll be interesting to see what happens after the fact, because I know they're probably going to follow up with these folks. So Cely decides to wake up before everybody else. She sneaks outside of the bedroom area, decides, and I'm thinking she was finna cook breakfast or something for everybody. What she decides to go and do, and it's weird that those pots and pans was just sitting on the counter. Well, no, she did take them out of the thing. I'm sorry. But she went and grabbed pots and pans, and again, I thought she was about to cook, but no. Instead, she goes back into the room area where everybody is sleeping. She climbs up on this little, I don't know if this was a little couch or sitting area or empty bed, and she started banging the pots and pans against each other to wake everybody up. I'm like, okay. It was fun throughout the several weeks seeing her, wakey wakey, positive affirmations, that type of stuff. But seriously, banging the pots and pans, yeah, okay. I mean, like I always say, she definitely has a ball of energy. But sometimes, it's a little over the top, But hey, that's Cely. Cely, do you, just don't come in my room waking me up with pots and pans. Anywho, so they're actually by the jacuzzi area. And well, first of all, Justine is teaching everybody how to dance. So they were doing their little thing as a couple. So they're sitting by the jacuzzi area, and this is the opportunity for them to now start talking about life outside of the villa. And Johnny, he said, life and the future is, what I think about you and some of the things that we'll be doing, like going for coffee. And she was talking about date night and roller skating, bowling. And she started talking about the price of beef jerky and running for election and would he vote for her. And he was like, no, because if I voted for you and you went in office, you wouldn't have time. Okay, that's fun and games and stuff, but you guys were talking about life outside. What are your plans? So they also were in the fire and ice game. And of course, Johnny got best boyfriend, I think, yes. And then, even though, well, the girls voted him best boyfriend, but Caleb was the one that actually got it from America. And then she got best girlfriend. But that was the only thing. No, most loyal. I'm sorry. She got most loyal. So, it was pretty interesting. I mean, granted, I would say that's pretty accurate about being most loyal. However, best boyfriend, the girls voted him as that. I don't see it. I'm glad Caleb did get that. So, yeah. So, anywho, they're still having their conversation. about how they don't want this to end. And she was like, okay, but here's the thing. It has to end. You got to go back in the real world when everybody's going back to work, getting up in the morning, going on with their daily life. So we'll see how they adjust in the real world. So let's talk about Mr. Confusionton, as the commentator said, aka Mr. Carrington. So he's toasting to the departure of Kirsten, saying that he wanted to toast to a woman who's so strong and so confident, and everybody is trying to drink the way that she would drink, with putting a martini glass in her forearm. Yeah, well, unfortunately her demise was being stuck on somebody who didn't want to be with her, but that was her choice. So, but she will be missed. So Carrington and Laurel have a conversation, and she was telling him how she's very shocked by the decision. And he was like, well, how did you think it was going to go? And she was like, it was going to go 50-50, which equal 100. And he couldn't understand that. And he was like, well, 50-50 is a pretty good shot, which technically it is, because it could go either way, but it's not over more than 50. It got kind of a confusing conversation. But he was saying, that it was a stressful few days. Both of them were talking about how stressful it was because, what he needs, because of what I need. And she was bought in because, I think I just had, it was just him rambling. It didn't make sense, but obviously it made enough sense to her because she was okay with it. And then she ended up on this conversation with the thought of losing you lit a fire under her. Okay. I mean, honestly, I don't think Carrington is 100% on this. And, as they have a later conversation, I'll go into detail on that. But I don't think he's 100%. I still think that, Laken is in his system. And he probably thought before Laken handed him his face that he was going to maybe try to have an opportunity. But Laken said, I don't think so. Sorry. No, I'm not giving you the time of day. You're done. So anywho, he was having that conversation with Laken. And again, I wanted to make sure I get some shots of his face being handed to him, because he deserved every bit of what Laken was giving him. Granted, she bought into what he was saying, but clearly, like she said, she got played. She was like, okay, I'm thinking that, you finna do this with me. And it was like, I choose to couple up with Laurel. So, yeah, I don't blame her. That's what you get. So, anywho, he got a lot of negative votes. Okay, so I mean, he got, by the girls, the least best friend or something like that, and then he also got worst boyfriend in the villa. He got the fakest in the villa, and then Laurel actually got the worst girlfriend in the villa. So this couple is just not viable at all. And unfortunately, I honestly would hope, I don't think Laurel tends to be pretty sweet. I just think she just, with the decision with dealing with Carrington, it's just not a good one. I mean, I hope she don't get hurt in the process outside the villa or before they leave this week. So anywho, she was also having a conversation. Again, we talked about this earlier, and, they acted like BFFs, but I don't know how legit that was, So, and then we saw Carrington consoling Moira, which we'll talk about that when we get to that couple. But these two, back to what I was saying about, Laken and Laurel, this whole alliance, and I mean, granted, girl power is cool, but you were on two opposite sides of the spectrum 24 hours ago. And now, because Carrington has decided to be with Laurel, it's like, okay, and he's standing off watching off at a distance because he knows he tried to play both of those girls. You know, he played Laken by giving her false hope. And then while you giving her false hope, you was sticking this in Laurel's face, blatantly in her face. I mean, really, dude, I'm surprised neither one of those girls want to deal with him. That's why I'm hoping Laurel walk away from this situation before she really gets hurt. So let's talk about this part of the conversation, which was real interesting because they were talking about life outside of the villa. And, you know, her thing was, you know, hey, I'm excited about this. I know there's some distance from where you are and where I am, because he's in Utah, and I think she's in the southeast. I forgot what state it was. But he was like, you know, I trust you. And, hey, if, you know, we're not officially boyfriend and girlfriend. We can keep things open. I don't want to put labels on it. And if you decide to meet somebody back at home, I'm okay with that. And I'm like, dude, why are you leaving this so open? Because he's not 100% all in. Once they walk out that villa, there's a pretty big percentage that he's going to go off into the sunset. And I could be wrong, and I hope for her sake I am, because she's going to be hurt, you know. But at the end of the day, she still was like, okay, well, we'll definitely see how this work outside of the villa. And I'm like, oh, wow. So we'll see what happens with these two. All right, let's go into our next couple, which is Moira and Calvin. Now, I've been seeing mixed reviews about these two. I've seen some folks to say it's not legit. Moira's just there just as a prop. I couldn't believe somebody said that one, but okay. And then I've also seen where they actually see budding new connections. And I'm thinking because the little fire got lit when Julia was in town the other day, that Moira turned the switch on, because she had closed that book with Calvin. And then it was reopened, and now they're kissing and smooching and touching. And it's pretty interesting. But Calvin decided to get up and fix her breakfast, which was sweet. I like that. And you know, Moira's like, oh my God, how did I get so lucky? You know, I found a guy and you're doing all the right things. And, you know, they're talking about kids. And Moira's like, I want a boy and a girl. And how she was a pleasant surprise. I guess her mom, you know, this was a surprise pregnancy, her birth. But she called her a pleasant surprise. And so, you know, they were talking about that. And Calvin said something, you know, I mean, he was like, you know, I like seeing a smile on her face, and I want to make sure I do things that's going to make her happy. I'm also hoping, Calvin, that you're also happy by some of the things that she's showing you that she's doing with being with you. I hope that makes sense. But I just hope Moira is all in. I think she's enjoying the moment. I mean, she's talking future events with Calvin. But I'm hoping that she's legit, because this dude is really all in. I think Calvin is a sweet guy. He didn't fall in any of the negatives, or his name wasn't even brought up at all, I don't think, when they did the Fire and Ice Challenge. But I really like Calvin. I think he's a sweet guy. He's well-mannered. You know, he's one of those. I think him and Laurel should have actually got together. Because remember, we voted on that as well. I mean, those comments came in as well regarding those two. So, because they're two very affectionate, sweet people. And I really think that they could have really doted on each other. But he's with Moira, so, I mean, honestly, we'll see what happens after they leave the villa. So, Moira got caught up in this whole thing with the Fire Ice Challenge because America, you know, voted her as being two-faced. Even though the guys voted Justine as being two-faced, which I'm going to touch on that a little bit later when we get to that couple. But, you know, Calvin did not get any votes on any sides of this thing, good or bad. He's just there. He's just him. But Moira really took it hard when she got voted as the most two-faced. Now, guys, in the comments below, let me know what you think about this. Do you see anything in the past episodes? Because this show has been on officially a little over a month. Have you seen anything that would show or reflect that she is two-faced? Now, I remember the whole thing early in the series of the James thing. Then this thing with Mackenzie, so I don't know if people are referring to that whole thing. And I mean, even Calvin can't believe it. He was like, oh my God, you guys don't know her. She's the least most two-faced person I've ever seen. And honestly, Moira, like Calvin says, which we'll talk about that, if you know that that's not who you are, don't worry about what people have to say. You cannot control the perceptions of someone else. All you can do is be you. That's one problem that you cannot fix, is the perception of someone else. Just be you. So, anywho, she decided to take a time out and, kind of dwell on what she heard and how, America described her. And, of course, Calvin, being the sweet person that he is, decided that he wanted to check up on her to make sure she's okay, And, he's like, hey, how you doing? And she was like, yeah, I'm upset, and I'm not that type of person. I'm a very good person. I'm not two-faced. And, Calvin is like, we know that. We don't think that you're two-faced. But my thing is, y'all think Justine is? Okay, again, I'll touch on that later. But he made her feel better. And she even said that it's so sweet of him to come and check on me and help me and console me. And he's just a keeper. He is just a keeper. But the thing is, are you in for this with him? Because I really think that if this is somebody who she's choosing to be with, he's a good guy. I don't see any negatives. I don't see any toxicity like you would see in Carrington, or maybe even some of the other folks that came and went off the show. But I just hope that she realized what she has in front of her. Because Calvin is a good guy. And, she said that she wasn't as happy as she ever been until she met him. And he's looking forward to continue, having some happiness with her. So I'm hoping, Moira, you've been here since day one. You are a Love Island Vegas OG. You were one of the originals. So, you started it from the beginning. You're now at the end of this thing. I just hope that you found your guy in Calvin. And I hope Calvin is going to be happy in this relationship with you as well. So, we'll see. Again, guys, let me know what you think about this. Do you think that this is a pretty good match? And you know what? I didn't rate my other couples, did I? So with them, I'm going to give them a 6 because I really need to know if Moira is 100% sold on Calvin. With Johnny and Cely, I'm just going to stick them at an 8 on the way out from here on out because I'm not sure about him. And then Carrington gets a 2 for me. Poor Laurel, she's choosing to be there, but hey, that's her choice. But I'll give them a 2 just to give Laurel that much. But these two, Moira and Calvin, they seem to be a lot more affectionate. She seems to be more relaxed. She has a glow. And they're always kissing at night. I think that's the highlight of the day, is to look forward to kissing. So let's talk about our couple of the evening. And that is Queen Justine and Prince Caleb. I should say King Caleb. Yeah. Okay. So he set up this beautiful idea of taking her to the rooftop because even though, they've been seeing this area all the time they've been there, but it's beautiful at night. And so he decided to plan this little romantic thing, or get this beautiful view of Vegas up top where they can have some private time to talk and cuddle. And she was like, oh my God, why do you do some of the most romantic things? And he was like, this is to make you feel special. And he, are you contemplating forever? And he was like, yeah, of course I am. And he even talked about living together. Listen, Caleb, hey, I'm sold. I'm sold. Please, Justine, Caleb, I'm rooting for you guys. So, what kind of bothered me a little bit is when she started talking about, oh, we don't need any titles. I know what I'm worth. That's good. You do know what you're worth. That's awesome. But don't impede the process. That's where that self-sabotaging come in. If you guys organically get to the point where you need to be with each other, then it'll come. Then you'll never know. Oh, you know what? I want you to be my girlfriend. Then I want you to be my fiance. Then whatever. So just let it be. Don't get in the way. So Cely and Justine gushes over the fact of how lucky they are that they found two great guys coming into this process, and they're so excited, and how I'm glad for them. And look, like, to me, Justine is very dominant when it comes to bedroom activities, because she is always on top of this man, kissing him. But let's talk about, before we get there, she was teaching everybody how to dance together and do couples dancing. I thought that was cool. I mean, they had Cely doing the exercise water aerobics, but they had her doing the dance class, and everybody, I mean, they were twerking on each other and all kind of stuff. I'm like, wow. But that's the type of stuff you do with your partner, somebody that you invested with. But let's talk about this fire and ice thing. What I did not like, and I found very interesting, and I want to know you guys' opinion, is the guys voted Justine as being the most two-faced. Where in the world did they get that? She has been so supportive of everybody, and the guys. And I mean, granted, Caleb played it off like, oh, she got so many faces, she can beat a face in many different. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm not for. Yeah, I hear you, Caleb, on that. But why is your boys calling her Two-Face? I don't get that. So you guys, let me know what you think on that. She didn't take it too hard like Moira did, but that was pretty interesting. That didn't sit well with me, because I didn't see any stuff like that. You know what I mean? So anywho, they actually had another conversation, and they was made a toast to all the wonderful dreams that they plan to have. And I'm like, oh my God, these two are like a romance novel. They just are. They're so sweet to each other, and it seems genuine. That's the difference. And Caleb is just so respectful. He doesn't seem like a guy who's controlling and trying to tell her what to do and trying to, he's just like, you know what, I just want to put a smile on your face. I want to see you happy. We got plans. We got stuff to do. I think they even brought up babies. I think they even brought up babies. So I'm really feeling this whole thing. And then, of course, he got the Hideaway text. Now, you guys, what was up with Johnny's face? And what was up with Carrington's face? Now, I can understand if Carrington wanted to go into the Hideaway. But, dude, you at the bottom of the list. And, Johnny, I don't know why you was looking like that, because you and Cely already been in there. That's another thing. You guys let me know what you think about the reactions to this with them. So they were definitely excited. I mean, Caleb was like, come on, chop, chop, let's go. Let's get the moving. Time is of the essence. He was ready. He was ready to spend some time with his queen. And she's talking about, oh my God, let's go take a shower. And he was like, okay, if they want to see us, I don't have a problem with that, but they're going to be looking at us. And she went and got her little cute peach. I think that's peach, or like a pink orange nightie. I thought it was cute. And I was wondering if Cely was going to come in there, because at first when she stood up, she turned around and looked, and everybody was just looking at her like a deer in headlights. Nobody got up. And then she just decided to walk away. So Cely decided to finally come in there. and support her, but that was it. That was kind of weird. That whole thing about the Hideaway was really weird about the responses from some of the people in the villa. Because the other Hideaway recipients, oh my God, they got a cheering section. Anywho, so they came out and they did their little walk, and everybody was sitting on the sidelines cheering them on, and they're just so excited. They just locking lips and smooching, and I'm glad that they're giving each other that attention. It's not one-sided, you know. And he looked like, because he said, I forgot to mention when they were on the rooftop, he said he can feel like he could fall in love with her. And I really truly think he's being genuine with this. So we'll see. So they go into the Hideaway and they're so excited. And the one thing that, and you know, I think that's a cute little thing. I don't know about the lips shaped headboard, but everything else is pretty cool. They didn't gush over the bidet like Connor did. That was hilarious. But you know, they came in and checked the place out, and they were pretty excited. They decided to toast to get a drink and, you know, kind of get comfortable and everything. And I was wondering how this was going to go down with these two. I'm like, don't cut out no scenes. I want to see everything. I want to make sure that y'all ain't cutting us and leaving us short. But we got a lot of confession room scenes, you know, but that's fine. You know, I just want them to be happy. I like to see the big smiles, and Justine definitely have a big smile. So they laid across the bed, and, you know, Caleb was like, you know, let's get the talking out the way first, but it ain't going to be too long, because once we done talking, it's a wrap. Caleb ain't playing. He is ready to go and get a little taste of that chocolate. So I ain't mad at you, Caleb. Go ahead on with your bad self. So anywho, yeah, they get to talking about, you know, where their life can go and how happy they are. And, you know, I was just relishing. I was trying to keep from shedding a tear because I had to actually get this commentary together. And I did not want to miss one scene. And it was so cute when she was in there changing. She peeped around the corner, and then he's looking at her with his mouth wide open like, oh my God, that's mine right there. However, when they got in the bed, they made sure she covered up to her entire neck. Now, I don't know if she didn't have on any clothes or anything, but we definitely knew what was going on up under them covers. You know, this wasn't a Johnny situation with Mercedes or whatnot. This was strictly Queen Justine and King Caleb. And they doing their thing. Now, they didn't show a lot. And from what I understand, over in UK, you get to see a lot more with the beds moving and everything. But I am so happy for them. And I look forward to next episode on Sunday. So let's do our post notification shout out. If you want to shout out, comment down below. We're going to start out with Maxime Valbrune. Thank you so much for engaging in the channel. I really appreciate your comments. Please, if you haven't subscribed, guys, subscribe. I see you guys over here, a lot of you. Just subscribe. Reby Swift, thank you for loving my reviews. I really appreciate it. And then also Tony Brooks, thank you so much as well for engaging in the channel. Guys, like, comment, and subscribe. We will see you on Sunday.